beautiful, and I'm very glad to be here. Just a quick necessary thank you to Jean, Susan, Francie, Leonard. Is Leonard in here? Yeah.
Right here.
Crudites. Thank you to them, to name a few key folks who have trusted me and supported me, and for whatever reason keep inviting me to things. So thank you for seeing me and letting me grow here. Often in queer spaces, I've seen the practice of giving a moment of silence to remember the lives of Black and brown trans women who have been murdered. Maybe even their names are read, but I'm going to ask you to do something a little different. I want you to take down even just one of these names, and later, not right now, I want you to go look up their lives. I want you to, you'll likely find the story of their death first, but see if you can find the parts of their lives where community is talking about how they live their lives. Then consider what, if anything, you are doing to support one of the most vulnerable populations in your community. It is also transgender, the Day of Remembrance is coming up soon, so just keep that in mind. All right, now going back, does everybody have their name? How many of you have heard of the gay agenda? How many of you know what it is? Great, well, spill the secrets then. We're gonna get back to it. About 2.5 years ago, I started weekly injecting testosterone into my body. This small, routine, and sacred act helped me to appear to the world as I saw myself on the inside, aesthetically, and helped me bring some love and peace for this body. But it also did some things that I did not expect. You'll see, now I can walk into a room, and if I start talking, people listen, mostly. They even hear what I have to say. I find significantly less barriers to opportunities, and I'm given the benefit of the doubt more than I ever did when the world did not perceive me as a man. I don't have to fight nearly as hard at the mechanic, although I have no clue what they're telling me about my car. It's fairly easy to get service, at least until they find out that I'm not a man. I have far less hassle at the mechanic than I ever had before. I'm trans-masculine, non-binary, and I use they/them pronouns. For me, this means I'm masculine of center, but really I just don't feel a need to be stuck in the gender binary. I know I'm not a woman or a man, but it's undeniable that I still gain privilege in becoming who I feel is my most authentic self. Based on how society views my appearance, even with all the frustrations that come with it. James Baldwin said, if I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things that you don't see. There's a trans person in front of you, just as often as you've likely used the restroom next to us, not even knowing it. And today I'm going to talk, and you may notice, particularly white folks, that you will listen to me and maybe even trust what I have to say, versus if I was here 2.5 years ago, and more upsetting to me, you may listen and hear me more than if I was a Black trans woman standing on this stage. This is a serious problem, and it also stems from a complicated problem that we have. You know one of the reasons why white people love to very loudly support the LGBTQ community, because there are white queers. And if we focus on gender and sex, then we don't have to talk about race. Less likely we'll even mess it up. This isn't even an issue for white, queer, and trans folks. It's also a problem if we are more willing to discuss race and do not address sexuality and gender, because this leaves out or erases a specific demographic we need to pay attention to, which is Black and brown trans women. So I want to make note of that as you listen to me today. So why am I really here? I'm here because of cancel culture, queer experience, and faith communities of love. I went back to my hometown in Wyoming in June for Pride Month to help with the celebrations, but also to host a conversation with whoever in the community wanted to join. I wanted to discuss the LGBTQ community, the faith community, and how do we get to a better place with the two. You see, my experience was growing up in a church that was like family, only to go through conversion therapy when they found out that I liked women and at the time was still a woman. It's okay though, because it obviously didn't work and it just made me more gay. Well, a friend in the same church came with me on this trip and had, when I visited them, they had a similar experience in my church, where the church did not take it well when they came out as transgender. So when I heard this, I couldn't just let it be. I had finally healed enough where I wasn't spending time angry at the church or waiting for an apology that is likely never going to happen. I was finally ready to work towards creating a dialogue about the need for queer people to be able to be in faith communities, should they want that, because faith can be and is a method of survival in a very hard world. So while I wasn't and still don't seek a faith community, I did know what some might be facing and now had knowledge on what a safe and affirming environment could be like. I came back with friends and family supporting me and community surrounding me even while I was there, and was ready to talk not about how bad things had been when I went through conversion therapy, but how do we move forward? How do we sit at tables together and get to know each other even when we're not in alignment or agreement? And how had I been doing that over and over again? And I realized that it was curiosity. Instead of spinning my wheels trying to convince people to get it and understand me, I realized I didn't need to do that work. I could just be, and it was up to them to pick up a thing or two through connection or not. This wasn't a dismissal of harm. This wasn't a dismissal of harm caused by positioning myself to say I'm, at least in this moment, ready to sit with you and hear you and share about me. It was an incredibly healing moment for me to create space where maybe folks could move their thinking along because they weren't also being shut down. Which I will say there's many occasions where people do need to be shut down, and I'm not against cancel culture, but I do want to leave myself the opportunity to connect if someone actually does come around. Because I know I didn't get to this level of understanding by accident or overnight. This is also isn't necessary for everyone, but if you're able to, I'll help you consider it. Dylan Marin, a viral activist, talks about conversations with people who hate him, and has his TED Talk about empathy is not an endorsement, and how by interacting with folks who did not start at a place of liking him online behind a keyboard, he found out how little the hate had to do with him and where it was really coming from. He also has a video series called Sitting in Bathrooms with Trans People, and 10 out of 10 would recommend. In a conversation with a dear friend who came with me on this trip and had also moved from our hometown to get to greener, gayer pastures, we talked about the gay agenda and what it really is, and that it's the same as the faith communities that we felt exiled from. It's love. What do queer people want? We want love, we want to be loved, we want to love each other, and we want to love you. We don't want to convert anyone, not to say that it doesn't happen. All jokes aside though, I realized the biggest commonality that I had with the folks that I felt the most pain from was at the end of the day we wanted to love. We just went about it very differently. And the only way I could ever get the chance to understand that kind of love is through transformational relationships. I grew up in foster care in Wyoming, lived with mental health diagnoses, and I'm trans. So I need caseworkers and foster parents, counselors, teachers, families, and mentors who held me through all of that crap and didn't let me get too far off course so I could thrive. Some were paid professionals, sure, but the people that I worked best with were the ones who very clearly cared about me beyond their job duties. This is the Jeans, the Susans, Francies, Leonards, and my alumni family who's in the room. These are the folks who helped me see that I mattered, that my future has so many things to offer. They help me feel pride in myself. They're persistent and consistent. They are real and will support just as much as they challenge me to be there in times of crisis and times of need. But this isn't just about accepting folks through curiosity and voila, we've solved problems. I know that not everyone will get it, but for the folks in the middle who actually have a shot of understanding with some time and connection, it's worth it. And most importantly to me, this is life or death. It's especially for my queer and trans family, particularly those who are Black and brown. Because if it isn't death by violence, it may be death at our own hands. I've come to terms with the reality that I live with suicidal ideation, and it's just a part of who I am and what I carry day to day. Some days it's really high, other days I have not even had the feelings come to mind. I would not be here if it were not for transformational relationships. Loving, affirming, genuine connection with others who actually see me and who stick around. I don't want to open one more news story about a queer or trans person being murdered, and I don't want to worry that tomorrow or the next day another one of my peers will end their life because someone's belief system told them that we shouldn't be here. So I'm asking you and begging you to be curious about the people around you, even the ones who challenge you. Not because you have to be friends or accept them for where they are and the plenty of challenging and bad beliefs, but because writing folks off altogether without some opportunity to come along feels dangerous, but when necessary, I get that too. Be curious, love well, we're here and we're queer, and really, truly, we just want to love and be loved. And like any millennial, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.